Everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today we will be doing a Dungeons & Dragons race review about the Elves. Yes, Elves. Now, this is one of most people's favorite races. For me, Elves are okay. I'm not exactly partial to Elves, personally. Just not my thing, the whole nimble elf thing. Not me, but a lot of people like them, and I mean, I like Elves. It's just not my favorite race. I'd rather play something a little more combat oriented. Not to say that elves aren't, but they focus on magic a lot. Elves typically are wizards. That is their strongest calling, although elves, unlike the dwarves, are very versatile in what they go with. Dwarves are almost always fighters, whereas the elves, not so much. They have a fair number of them go wizards. Druid's actually fairly common choice for an elf. What other choices are there? Ranger. There's a lot of rangers um, that are elves. Um, yeah, the elves have a little bit of versatility. Mostly the more natural stuff, but yeah, it's mostly druids. Um, like I say, druids, rangers, and wizards are the main choices for the elves in terms of class. Now, what does it mean to be an elf? Well, elves are incredibly long lived, for one. They are the longest lived race out of all of the races in the player's handbook. So, yeah, you've been around for a while if you're an elf. I mean, your character's. I mean, most people always pick, you know, young. Like humans, they usually put something in the 20s, maybe late teens. Um, with elves, you're probably going to want to tack on about 100 years to that. So yeah, you've been around for about 100 years longer than your human comrades. Probably about 50 years longer than your dwarven and elven comrades. No, not your dwarven and gnomish comrades. So yeah, you've been around for a while if you're an elf, which is really what elves are for one. Elves are also very chaotic by nature. Um, Now, a lot of people get confused with chaos and evil. No, they're two completely separate things. Um, Elves are free. That's really what they are. Elves are they generally are good. At least the high elves tend to favor good over evil, although they tend to favor neutral over good, to be honest. Um, yeah, but chaos is really what they favor. They like to be free. They love nature. Elves are really one with nature. Out of all the races, they are the most nature-based, which is why they don't like um, the dwarves too much. That and elves are free, dwarves are very rigid. So yeah, there's a lot of animosity there. Elves also hate orcs. Elves really hate orcs. We got a long-standing beef. I mean, there's even stuff in the god descriptions about that. Um, the elven god, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Korthlarian, um, she shot the eye off of Grumsh, the orc god. Uh, or he shot it. Kind of a general neutral god, Korthlarian. But, yeah, uh, he shot the eye off of Grumsh, and so there's a lot of animosity between the two races. I mean, even their gods hate each other. So, yeah, humans, elves and humans get along for the most part, but elves cannot stand the short-sightedness of humans. Elves love nature, and humans pollute. They don't care. They're just like, well, it's not my problem. So what if it's not going to be around in 100 years? I'll be dead by then. That's just the human's attitude. And the elf, no, he's going to be around in 100 years. That's like, well, 100 years to an elf is like the amount of time you spend in high school. You know, that's really, um, at least in percentage of lifetime, that's about accurate. Elves live just ridiculously long. So, yeah, they're what we think is nothing is a very long time for them. I mean, yeah. So that's one big thing with the elves. In terms of statistics, elves get a couple of cool things. They get a +2 to dexterity, which is nice. They're very nimble, and a -2 to constitution. Elves, they're not very they're not very sturdy. Elves are kind of flimsy, which is kind of I mean, they're delicate. Elves are very nimble but very delicate. So yeah, that's the elf for you. Um, yeah, and Lord of the Rings and that they show elves as being taller than humans, but that's not the case in Dungeons and Dragons. They're actually a little bit shorter than humans. Um, very similar in size, but a little bit shorter, much thinner. Um, yeah, they're about 75% the weight of a human. So, yeah, they're basically a slightly shorter, much thinner human in terms of appearance. That and they got those nice pointy ears. Something that I don't know why, but most non-human races tend to have. I think it's just sort of a fantasy people have. I don't know what it is about pointed ears, but because seriously, most of the races have that. Elves tend to be clean shaven, unlike most other races. They tend to not to grow facial hair. Elves, I believe, almost always have green. I think they always have green eyes. I don't think there's ever an exception on that. They also tend to have fair hair, generally blonde, maybe like a blondish white, kind of a platinum color. So yeah, that's elves for you. Like I say, they love nature. That's if you're gonna play an elf, you gotta focus on nature and your reverence for it. You also need to focus on um, being free and not really tied down to the rules. The rules really don't mean a lot to the elves. So, there's laws in the land. You're probably not going to follow them as strictly as somebody else would. I mean, I know elves tend to go wizard, and wizards are very lawful ones, so that's a little bit of a contradiction there. But I imagine elven wizards would actually focus a little more on the chaos side, maybe the true neutral. Um, yeah, they're going to be a little bit more chaotic with their studies. Um, yeah, so that's really all I have about the elves. If there's anything that you think should be included, feel free to leave a comment, um, like the video, uh, subscribe to my channel. But anyways, I'm Mitch, and I'll be seeing you.